Welcome to the Pub Sports Radio NBA Closing Time Show, Wednesday, January 20th. Ian Cameron and Skee Profit with you, breaking down this NBA card. It's a massive card today, and that's why I love the Wednesday shows. You can always usually count on a lot of games. We do have a lot of games tonight on the schedule. Even with 2 games postponed tonight, we've still got 9 other games to talk about. So we'll start at the top of the rotation, Celtics and 76ers. This is your first ESPN NBA Wednesday doubleheader game. We've got Philadelphia, 5-point favorites here, 221 and a half the total. I'd expect this to be a really good game because you got Boston off a pretty much a no-show. I think you would have to say with the way things went for them against the Knicks, 105-75. Philadelphia lost the last game they played at Memphis, 106-104. Then they had a game canceled. So they've had a little bit more downtime prior to this game. It looks like there's, as with every game, it seems these days, question marks, who's going to be in and out. Jason Tatum out for Boston. He's in COVID issues. Robert Williams for the Celtics in the front court. He's also dealing with the same COVID issues, out for the Celtics. For the Sixers, looks like Embiid's upgraded to probable. He's been dealing with right knee pain. Embiid's always dealing with something. This time around, it's right knee pain, but looks like he's going to play tonight for the Sixers. Seth Curry, that's the key absence for the Sixers. Left ankle injury, and he's, of course, tested positive for COVID-19. So it's a double whammy for him. He's going to be out in this one. It's a tricky game. I like usually the Celtics off a loss, but you've got Philadelphia in that same boat right now going into this game. I'd lean a little to Boston +5, but just a small lean for me in that game. I haven't bet it yet. Not sure I will, but maybe a small lean to the Celtics here. Skee, what do you think? Celtics, Sixers?
Yeah, I would probably prefer Celtics as a dog, but I mean, I wanted to look Philadelphia's way, but I was thinking Seth Curry was going to play. I think he's a big part of what they do and why they were so good or why they looked good. Between him and Embiid on the court, I think when they're on the court together, they're pretty good. So knowing he's out now, it kind of just takes me away from that. And but no Tatum, I can't really have confidence jumping on the Boston side. I would look more towards the total. And the tempo, both teams play a little bit faster than I would like, but I still think I can get under this number. No Tatum and no Seth Curry. I think it'll affect both offenses, and maybe we can sneak under that number.
Which has gone up. So if you like the under, you're getting a good number now, 221 and a half, the current total in this game. Brooklyn, Cleveland. Brooklyn, 10-point road favorites, 226 the total. It was a hell of a game on MLK Day with the Bucks and the Nets. Back and forth it went. Durant and Harden, let's just call it out. It's been nice so far to see the way they've gotten continuity, some chemistry, some rhythm, and some cohesion. Here's the problem, though. Now you throw the problem child that is Kyrie Irving back into the mix tonight for the Brooklyn Nets, and he's going to obviously make his return. He says, now I'm in a good place, yada, yada, yada. I'm ready to move on and get back on the court. That's all fine and good, after weeks of being away. But, does that distort the chemistry a little bit? Because you're all of a sudden, you see Brooklyn get things going in the second half against Orlando in Harden's first game. And then I thought in the Milwaukee game against a really good Bucks team, I was impressed with the offensive chemistry that was going on, considering these are guys that are all going to want the ball in their hands at key moments in the basketball game. Harden would take the big shot if he got it, the opportunity. Durant would. Irving, now that he's back, would. So, there's only one basketball that can go around to these 3 guys at one time. And you just got to wonder, Skee, and I mean, what are we going to get from Brooklyn now tonight in particular, and in a price range where they've not only got to win the game, they've got to win by 10, 11 points here in this game against Cleveland. I kind of lean to the Cavaliers a little bit here in this game. I really do. I think you worry a little bit after the huge win against Milwaukee. You worry a little bit about Kyrie now all of a sudden rejoining the rotation. Does that throw things a little bit off kilter tonight for the Nets? There's no doubt they've played well lately, 4 straight wins, 3-1 against the spread. Cleveland got back on track after 3 straight losses to Milwaukee, Memphis, and Utah. They beat the Knicks 106-103 last week. They've had time off as well, whereas Brooklyn, they played a lot more games during that period of time. They played the 12th, the 13th, the 16th, the 18th. I think there's just it's an ugly underdog because we've seen Cleveland at times really struggle when they play a good basketball team. But I think this is a spot where you can grab the points with Cleveland. I'm certainly looking to do that here in this game. What's your take, Skee, on this one, Brooklyn versus Cleveland?
Yeah, the only way I could think about backing Cleveland is I need Sexton and Garland in the lineup. because the offense has just been it's been extremely bad without those two in the lineup.
No.
And Brooklyn, they're not going to struggle to score. I don't really think it really matters who's defending them. I just think their offense is going to prevail. So can Cleveland keep up will be the question. So if those guys are in, I could understand and maybe side with Cleveland. But with them out, it'll be Brooklyn. And if I'm playing this total, it's gone up quite a bit. It's two teams that are kind of the opposite. One's really good offensively.
Yep.
One is a lot better defensively. So without Garland, just thinking, I don't think they're going to play. They haven't played in a while. So until they get on the court, I'll assume that they're not going to play. And I'll lean under.
All right, I'll lean to the under and going against this move as well, because this total's gone up from 222.5 to 226. We've got Dallas and Indiana, the Mavericks, 1.5 point road favorites, 219.5 the total in this one. Dallas is not a team I'm looking to lay on the road with. I can tell you that right now. They're a banged up basketball team. They're struggling really. The lineups are different every day. They lost to Milwaukee, lost to Chicago at home, got blown out by the Bulls, and then just had a second half collapse against the Raptors, and Toronto rolls past Dallas in the second half of that game the other night. They're still without Josh Richardson. They did get Tim Hardaway back against the Raptors, but he's still questionable. Dorian Finney-Smith still out. Maxi Kleber, key role player for this Mavericks team, is also remaining out for this team, and it's definitely taking a toll. And with Luka Doncic, with all these guys out, has to be great. You know, he's got to play well. He's got to shoot the basketball well. And right now, quite frankly, it's been a struggle for him at shooting the basketball for this Mavericks team, really all season, but particularly as of late. So, you know, it's tough for me to get to the betting window and say, I want to lay points with Dallas right now on the road, the way things have gone for them. I definitely would lean Pacers here, Skee, but the problem is it's that first game home, pretty long road trip for the Pacers. Now, granted, it was a bad game in the final game of that road trip against the Clippers, for this Indiana team. And Miles Turner's injured. They'll miss him. But I would still prefer the Indiana side than favor Dallas here on the road with a banged up team, with Doncic not really finding his stroke right now from long distance. And just overall, you know, his percentages have gone down shooting the ball this year. I would lean ever so slightly here to the Pacers side. Skee, what do you like here with Dallas, Indiana?
Well, the Mavs have been a little banged up, but they'll get Tim Hardaway Jr. back in this one. And that's a big addition. He'll put up some points and help Luka out. The Pacers are banged up too. Turner doubtful, LeVert out, Warren out. That's a lot of points missing. And Turner, I mean, that's a lot of defense missing as well. So you combine that with the flat spot, I think you have to look at the Dallas side. And if you look at teams coming off that long road trip coming back home, and these short margins between -2 and +2, they're 1-9-1 against the spread. So a complete fade on Indiana for me. And I'll be playing Dallas in this one.
All right, next up, we've got the Detroit Pistons taking on the Atlanta Hawks. Hawks 5-point home favorites here. Total 220.5 in this game. We've talked about it for a long, long time now, or multiple shows. Skee and I on these NBA closing time shows here on Pub Sports Radio. But this Atlanta Hawks team, if you've been paying attention the last several games, you've been betting some unders, hopefully, and cashing with them because these totals have just remained way too high for Atlanta. They're on a 9-0 under streak in their last 9 games going into this matchup tonight against the Detroit Pistons. And Skee's talked about it. I've talked about it. It's not that same light you up offensive team the last several weeks. Their defense is also a little bit better, at least. And you put those two factors together, and it's been a huge underrun for this Atlanta Hawks team. And obviously, when you get these kind of total streaks, I always say you don't really look for reasons to step in front of the streak. And I always just say, ride the streak until it stops cashing. So that's what I'm looking to do here. I would look a little bit under the total here, 220.5. I know Detroit has gone over the total their last two against Miami. They lost 113-107 in the rematch after they beat Miami in the first game. Now, the Heat are another team. They've had injuries. They've had COVID issues. They've had the gamut of things affecting that basketball team. But Detroit and Dwayne Casey's team have been competitive and covering some numbers lately. They split against Boston. They covered one game against Milwaukee, and they nearly covered the second one against them. They beat a good Phoenix Suns team in overtime. They gave Utah as good a game as anybody's given Utah lately. Utah's been just dismantling teams left and right. Detroit only lost to them by 10. And Skee, when you look at the way Utah's played lately, that's not a bad result for Detroit to only lose to the Jazz by 10 with the way they're playing. And then, of course, they lose by 9, cover the number against Milwaukee. They split with Miami. You can kind of get where I'm going. I would only look to the Pistons here, getting the points in this game, and I also lean under the total. Skee, what do you think? Detroit, Atlanta.
I understand the play on the Pistons. That's probably the way I'll go in this game as well. You talk about the understreak for Atlanta. Very true. I mean, missing Gallinari for a few games already. Missing Bogdanovich. Until they get those guys back in the lineup, I don't think we see that same high-scoring team because that's a good portion of where their points are going to come from. And Detroit, they've been kind of the opposite on the road. They've went over their last 5 games, so it's kind of which one is going to prevail in this game. And, gun to my head, I probably lean towards under, and I just ride the bigger streak with Atlanta, and I would play Detroit if I'm playing the side.
All right, we got Miami and Toronto. Toronto 4-point home favorites, 222 the total. Going into the game against Dallas, I was like, the Raptors haven't done anything to show me that they're back on track yet because the 4 wins were New York, Sacramento, and 2 against Charlotte. And I'm like, there's not a good win in that mix. But they finally put a good win on the board against Dallas. Now, granted, we just talked about it. Dallas, a banged-up team, although Hardaway did play the other game, which makes me think he's also going to play tonight against Indiana. But that was finally a good win for the Raptors. They played well. They dominated the second half. They ran away from Dallas in that game. So it's got me thinking now a little bit, okay, you got my attention now if you're the Raptors. You're starting to put some things together. You've now finally won 3 games in a row for the first time all year. Now can you keep it going against Miami? They might be able to. I think there's a reason they're favored here. I don't know if I want to lay 4 with Toronto here, but I can understand why they're favored here. Miami's it's been a headache season for Eric Spoelstra. He's had all kinds of guys out, Butler in and out, Hero game time decision again, Dragic banged up, Avery Bradley's missed time, Myers Leonard. I mean, they've got a ton of guys, combination of injuries and COVID-19, and it's just been impossible. You can't get any kind of cohesion on the basketball court when you got different combinations and different lineups every single night. And that's exactly what we're seeing here for Miami. And they're a tricky team right now to get to the betting window and say, I want to back them because they've been up and down. You look at the Detroit games, they lost badly to Detroit in the first game against the Pistons. And then they barely survived 113-107 in the game after that against Detroit. So it's been tricky for this Miami team. They're also only 1-4. On the road this year, straight up and against the spread. Now, it's short travel. This is Miami to Tampa Bay, which is Toronto's home this year. But, yeah, it's a tough game. I mean, Toronto's got a little something going. Chris Boucher has been awesome. I think from a prop standpoint, look, Chris Boucher right now for the Raptors. He's the reason Alex Len got waived, and he's the reason Aaron Baines isn't getting much playing time right now for the Raptors because he's been better than both of them. He's earned the court time. He's earned the trust of Nick Nurse. And deservingly so. I lean a little of the Raptors here, but I'm not sure I'm fully on board with laying 4. Plus, I want to see exactly who's in, who's out for Miami in this one. Skee, what's your take here with Heat Raptors?
It's been annoying to say the least about capping this Miami Heat team. Like, I just hate every game the laundry list of injuries. So I understand kind of why Toronto's favorite. They've been playing better kind of all the way down the board the last 5 games than Miami. That's the only way I would look probably in this one. I know I say Toronto shouldn't be favored all the time, but I don't think – I mean, even if you have Harrow and Duncan Robinson, those guys are not going to play a lot of defense against the Toronto guards, and I think Toronto will be able to score. So I'll probably lean maybe towards an over and towards the Toronto side.
Yeah, the over makes some sense to me, too. You look at some of these Miami games, and defense has been optional at times, including the games against Detroit that they just finished up. Orlando and Minnesota. Orlando, 4-point road favorites, 218.5 the total in this game. The Orlando Magic are another one of these teams that's been dealt a myriad of injuries. I mean, you can almost plug in Team A, Team B, all the way down to Team Z in the NBA this year and say they've dealt with something injury-wise or coronavirus standpoint. And Orlando's another one of those teams. They've had guys in and out throughout the course of the season. You look at tonight, for instance, They're still without Michael Carter-Williams. They're starting to get healthier, though, because Evan Fournier's been constantly on the injury report every day. He looks like he's going to play tonight. Aaron Gordon came back a few games ago. So Orlando is starting to get some of their key cogs back. That should help them here. Minnesota, to me, it's just a team that hasn't played very good basketball at all. They're 3-9 on the season. They are back home here, but tricky team to trust. I mean, you're just not seeing a whole lot of improvement with this group. They've lost back-to-back games to Memphis and Atlanta. Beating the Spurs 96-88 in that game with Karl Anthony looks more like an anomaly because this team, that's their only win in their last 10 games. And, 1-9 straight up, 3-7 against the number for this Timberwolves team in their last 10 games. But you're talking about an Orlando team, Skee, that's lost 6 in a row and is 1-5 against the number in those games. Can you, to me, Orlando's the lesser of two evils here, but can you lay 4 on the road with the Orlando Magic? That's tough for me to do that with this team, obviously on their own losing streak, and also, trying to find their footing with a lot of personnel issues in the early part of the season. I guess if I had to, I'd take Orlando, but it's not really a game I trust either side. What about you?
I pretty much agree with everything you said, so I won't repeat it all. But if I'm expecting success from Orlando, I have to expect it from Vucevic. I think he has a good matchup, and I probably think I like him to score, probably grab rebounds. So I would look for a prop to play on Vucevic because I'm not in love with laying the points on the road with the Magic. But that's how I would play it if I had to.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, I think Orlando wins the game. I would lean to them, but I don't want to lay 4 on the road for a team that's lost 6 in a row, even though things are just cascading downward at an alarming rate for this Minnesota team. Phoenix and Houston, we've got the Suns 5.5-point road favorite, 218.5, 219 the total. This is another tricky one because you got Phoenix off the loss on Martin Luther King Day to Memphis. Houston losing to Chicago. I thought that we both thought that was a favorable spot for Houston on Monday night against Chicago. They failed to get the job done. And all of a sudden now that's 2 straight point spread flops for this Rockets team. Skee and I were looking to ride this team following the trade of James Harden, cleansing the air, cleansing the locker room, cleansing the franchise, really finally getting them out of town. But they've had a couple of tough results in a row. Phoenix, though, has got that sign of a team that's coming back down to earth a little bit, just in terms of certainly from a point spread standpoint. Remember, they got bombed against Washington. Then they had the 1-week hiatus because of multiple games getting canceled for the Suns. And then they hit the court against Memphis for that first game in a week. And you could tell they weren't sharp overall. They struggled, especially Devin Booker had a really rough game against the Grizzlies on Monday. I would think now they get that game under their belt. They'll be fresher. They'll be better in this one. Houston, on the other hand, I think coming back home, it's a little bit of a dicey spot for them going into this game as well. So it's really tough from a side perspective right now. I'd still prefer probably my Houston theory than laying 5 on the road with Phoenix. I'll lean a little to the Rockets here in this game, plus 5.5. Not sure I'll get to the window. But that would be the way I would lean here in this one. Skee, what do you think with Suns versus Rockets?
They burned us 2 straight times. And, I mean, they haven't had John Wall. He's expected out at least 2 more games. And I think that's when we're really going to see them start to look a lot better. So right now in this game, you know what do you mind checking out the total for me right now? But
total's 218.5. It's come down. I don't know if I'd bet it under, though.
Yeah, it's come down again. That's the way I was looking. I was looking more towards an under in this game. Until Wall gets back, I mean, they've went under 7-2 their last 9. Phoenix plays a slower paced game. If Phoenix is going to win, they're going to play their style of basketball and play it slower. So that's just the way I was leaning in this one. So probably I don't want to lay with Phoenix still, though. I probably would still pick Houston, but it's not anything that I've got to the window with, and I lean under.
That's pretty much me right there. You just said it. Took the words right out of my mouth. I kind of lean Houston. I kind of think that's the side I would go with, but I don't feel overly in a rush to bet it here. And especially with Phoenix, though, I think Phoenix might fire back strong after that poor game against Memphis. Speaking of Memphis, their game against Portland has been canceled. tonight due to COVID-19 issues. So we'll move on past that one and move on to Sacramento and the LA Clippers. We've got the Clippers 9.5-point home favorites, 230 the total. You know what? I love Sacramento games, Skee, because they take the handicapping job right out of my hands. I don't have to think too hard or do too much when it comes to Sacramento, but bet over the total in their games. And man, this has been working out for, I think, 3 or 4 games in a row, Skee. I've been on Sacramento games over the total, and it has been just like clockwork, honestly. I mean, we know with De'Aaron Fox and company, they're a good enough offensive team. Scored 127, 126, 100, 123 in their last 4 games. They're on an incredible run of 7-2 to the over in their last 9 games, but they aren't playing a lick of defense. 128, 138, 132, 122, 125, 144. These are some god-awful, ugly numbers that they're giving up, the Sacramento Kings. They're letting teams shoot 50% every single night against them for fun. Luke Walton's team. I mean, it's just, we'll give up a nice, cool 50% shooting to the opponent. No big deal to us. It's in our DNA. It's what we do. We're the Sacramento Kings. And they've been doing it every single game, regardless of the opponent. Why can't the Clippers, who've, put up 130, 111, 138, 129 in their last 4 games, just shred and slice and dice this Sacramento team as well? And I think I was also on the over when these two teams met just recently. I always want to call it Arco Arena, and I'm dating myself saying that, but I should say at Sacramento. It was just, I think, 5 days ago. Yeah, 138-100. That game sailed over the total. And yet, there's still some people betting this game under a little bit. It opened 231. It's down to 229.5. I don't agree. Give me the over again with Sacramento. Skee, what do you think? Kings, Clippers.
Yeah, that's the only way you have to look with Sacramento. You named out the scores. They're giving up 123.5 points per game. And we just saw the Clippers hang, nearly 140 on them. I don't see anything different happening here. Last 5 games, they're worst in the league defensively. Both teams are top 10 offensive rated teams over the last 5. Sacramento, I mean, it's just a matter maybe of whose pace they're going to play. But I think Sacramento can maybe hang in the game this time around, and they want to play at a more up-tempo pace. And I think Clippers follow suit. Clippers went over 5 of their 7 home games. And I have some – I like you said, there's no reason to look any other way in the games for Sacramento than to bet the over. So give me Sacramento over.
All right, we agree there. And yeah, you're right. Look at these Clippers games. They play Chicago. They play Sacramento. When they play the teams that'll force pace on them a little bit, San Antonio is another one. Portland, that went over the total. These teams that are suspect defensively and play a little bit fast, those are the games with the Clippers that have gone over. So including just these same 2 teams just a few days ago went over the total when they met head-to-head in Sacktown. I think we'll see more of the same tonight. All right, we wrap it up with the final game on this Wednesday slate. San Antonio, Golden State. The Warriors here, 1-point home favorites against the Spurs, 228.5 the total, pretty much in that range. San Antonio, I'll tell you what, they just keep on playing some solid basketball here right now. 8-6 straight up, 9-5 against the spread. They beat Houston in the second meeting against the Rockets. I think they had kind of a flat spot in the first game against Houston, which I know Skee and I took advantage of. The first game that San Antonio played Houston off the road trip, and they lost that game. But it was a little bit of a difficult spot. But really, outside of that, you can't complain about what the Spurs have done. They beat the Clippers on the road. They beat the Lakers on the road. Not many teams have been doing that lately with the Lakers beating them. Minnesota, 125, 122, 96, 88, 112, 102 at Oklahoma City. They've played pretty good basketball on the road as well, the Spurs, which hasn't always been the case in the past. So it's a tough team to go against here. Golden State with the win against the Lakers the other night, 115, 113, came all the way back, got off to a rough first quarter against the Lakers the other night and ended up coming back while winning that game. Played really good defense in the second half of that game. And I think that's kind of the thing that stands out a little bit about the Warriors is they've definitely played better defense. It's also why they're 5-1 to the under in their last 6 games. You got the Spurs. They went over the total, but they did that with Portland. Before that, they had gone under the total in 4 straight games. Maybe a little bit under the total, I would lean in this game here with the Spurs and the Warriors. And the Warriors beating the Lakers and now coming back home and playing a Spurs team that, is playing some good ball here. I don't know if it's the greatest of spots for the Warriors. Right now, I'm leaning with Spurs, and I'm leaning with the under here against Golden State. Skee, what do you think about this nightcap?
It's interesting. When I look at both of these teams and I just think who's the better team, I would have to pick the Warriors. But who's been playing better lately is definitely the Spurs. And a big reason for why they're playing good lately is their defense. They're number 3 defensive rated team over the last 5 games, and Golden State sitting at number 10. So I think you can expect defense from both teams in this one. San Antonio, maybe since DeRozan has come back, I think have slowed the pace down a little bit, not really playing at the super up-tempo pace. And Warriors, they do want to push the ball. But like I said, I like both defenses here in this one. The number I have is 224 for this game. So I think there's a pretty good edge towards the under. And the line, my line for this game, I have it more towards 4.5 for the Spurs. So maybe I think Wiggins may sit out last minute or something. Something's up with this game. I think they want people to bet Golden State. And right now, I have a lean on the Spurs. If the Wiggins plays, though, I'm going to be nervous about it.
He is currently questionable. He's got right knee soreness, which means he's probably going to be out because he's not the kind of guy that plays through that kind of stuff. I'm sorry. I got to say, it's got to be said. So I there's probably a chance he doesn't play here tonight in this game, Andrew Wiggins, but questionable as of right now. I'm with you. I would look Spurs and under. That was my first thought, is that, and you look at it, the total's high, remember, and that's the thing. If you can make any kind of case for an under, this is the time to do it, because we've seen a lot of these totals inflated in the NBA this year, and there's a reason why unders have been doing pretty well for the most part, outside of Sacramento games, of course. But the unders have been you got to find reasons to bet unders, because you're going to pay a tax on some of these overs. And when you look at the Spurs and Warriors, you would think, especially early in the year, over teams, both of them, but they're both playing better defense right now. The defense, ever since they got Draymond Green back, the Golden State Warriors, that's really when things started to turn defensively for them. And San Antonio, as you mentioned, they've slowed it down, and their defense has been as good as it's been in the last 2 years. Like, they were a horrible defensive team, San Antonio, last year, and they've really improved when you look at them in their last several games compared to last year, or even very early this year. So I agree. I would look Spurs and under in this game. And that's the look at the Wednesday card. It's a big card. I thought it would be a juicier card where I'd find, there's a lot of spots I love. There's some things I like tonight. There's not really a whole lot I love, but there's a few solid potential plays and wagers out there. Skee, best bet material. I don't know if it's the easiest card to pick a best bet, but if you had to, where are you going for a best bet on this Wednesday NBA slate?
If I have to pick one right now, I'll go, Kings overs. We talked about they continue to cash. That's the way that I look at this one. And I look at maybe the Kings when they're off of a loss and they're rested on the road, and just have a total in this range between 218 and 233. The over is 9-1. So I'll continue to think that it goes over. I don't think the number is too high. We saw them do it once a couple of days ago. I think they do it again.
All right, there we go. Sacramento, LA Clippers over 229.5 is the best number right now with that. I do agree with it. I think that's definitely a good side to look at. And I'm going to go with Detroit +5 against Atlanta. It was either going to be that or the under in that game, because I like them both, but can only go with one best bet. I'm going to go Detroit here, +5 against Atlanta. I think Atlanta just a team, and they're coming off. I know they didn't play well against Utah, but coming back home, I think a little bit of a tricky situation for them. Detroit has been covering numbers lately, and you got to give the Pistons credit for that. I think, again, they've been good in this road dog role lately. We'll take the Pistons +5 against the Hawks. That'll be my best bet for this Wednesday NBA card. And that'll wrap up the show for this Wednesday. Thanks to everyone for tuning in the chat. We appreciate it. Always fun breaking down the NBA, and we'll be back to do it with you right here on Pub Sports Radio on Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, with the NBA closing time show. Ski Prophet, Connor Mack, and I will break down the Friday card with you later this week. For Ski Prophet, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Wednesday night. Enjoy the NBA action. Enjoy the games, and good luck. We'll see you again Friday right here for another edition of the NBA closing time show on Pub Sports Radio.